Makoloo is our nominee ambassador to Vienna, Austria. Before I allow you to give us a brief history of yourself, let me ask you the following questions. These are procedural questions. Have you complied with tax obligations to the state?
Yes, I have, Mr. Chairman.
Have you complied with clearance from the DCI?
Yes, I have, Mr. Chairman.
Have you complied with clearance from Office of the Registrar of Political Parties?
Yes, I have, Mr. Chairman.
Have you complied with clearance from the Higher Education Loans Board?
Yes, I have, Mr. Chairman.
Have you complied with clearance from Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission?
Yes, I have, Mr. Chairman.
Have you been charged in a court of law or convicted?
Absolutely not, Mr. Chairman.
Have you been adversely mentioned in an investigatory or parliamentary report?
Absolutely not, Mr.
Do you hold dual citizenship?
Absolutely not, Mr. Chairman.
What is your financial net worth?
153,375,806 Kenya shillings.
Excellent. I will then proceed to give you 10 minutes or less to introduce yourself, your family, academic background, professional background, and experience, and any other relevant material that you think might be useful in boosting your credentials for in looking at your nomination. Please proceed.
Thank you so much, Honorable Chairman and Honorable Member Makoloo. I want to thank you, Honorable Chairman, for the opportunity to share and engage with you this afternoon. But before I do that, allow me also, Mr. Chairman, to thank the Honorable President, His Excellency William Samoei Ruto, for his expression of interest, rather confidence in me, in asking me to not only represent him, but to represent our country in Austria. I also want to thank, in a very special way, my family, without whose support I would not have done the things that I've been privileged to do so far, and with whose support I hope to continue serving humanity, and especially at this time. My dear spouse is not here with me because of some work commitments, but I'm privileged to have my sons and my sister with me here. And I really just thank you for being here. I also want to be grateful to God, obviously, for the gift of life and the gift of good health, and also to my friends, colleagues who have expressed messages of goodwill and encouragement since this nomination happened. Honorable Chairman, I was born 50 years ago in a small dusty village in Ugenya, Siaya County. Like most people of my age that time, we ran barefoot to and from school. And many were the times that we never returned home for lunch because actually there was nothing to return home to. I did go successfully through primary school. And I would say that that experience leaves you with certain values, but it also leaves you with certain grit as you go through life. And I hope, Honorable Chairman, as I go through my life history in brief, 3 things come out that hopefully confirm my suitability for the undertaking to which I've been nominated. And that's my training, my skills, and my experience. Upon conclusion of primary school, I did proceed and successfully completed my O-levels. And thereafter, I joined the University of Nairobi for my Bachelor of Laws degree. From then on, I did a diploma in legal studies at the Kenya School of Law. Later on, Honorable Chairman, I did also enroll for my master's in law at the University of Nairobi. The study of both master's and bachelor's level did include, among other things, public and private international law, conflict of laws, and the law of treaties and international human rights. I am, therefore, professionally a lawyer of 25 years' experience, having been admitted to the role of advocates in the year 1998. Between then and now, I have had, Honorable Chairman, the privilege of practicing the art and craft of law in different ways. First, as a litigating lawyer, as an associate in a law firm for 3 years, and later on as a co-founder and a partner in another law firm that I was involved in creating. Concomitant with that, I did also co-found the Institute for Environmental Governance, which is a non-governmental organization whose mandate continues to be in partnership with governments and communities to get better environmental management and governance of our natural resources. Honorable Chairman, in the year 2004, I was very privileged to be appointed and gazetted by the then Minister for Environment and Natural Resources to the Public Complaints Committee on Environment. This is one of the statutory bodies that is created under the Environmental Management and Coordination Act. Upon the completion of an initial 3-year term, the successor minister did appoint me for a further term. I therefore served the government of Kenya for 6 years, ending in 2010. And during that time, I did work very collaboratively with ministers and other senior leaders, and indeed all staff within the ministry, but also interministerially. I did actually end up being part of Kenya's delegation to one of the Conference of Parties on Climate Change, specifically COP15 in Copenhagen. From this experience, I did make a bit of a shift to international development in the year 2012 when I joined the Ford Foundation as the Regional Director, Office for Eastern Africa. As the head of that body, my key roles were 3. One is development and execution of a strategy for engagement with the region, specifically East Africa region. And that was engaging with governments, engaging with multilateral institutions, engaging with intergovernmental organizations such as the East African Community, and of course, private sector and the citizenry generally. The second key mandate was being the external face, the representative, or in a manner of speaking, no pun intended, being the ambassador of Ford Foundation to the government and the people of East Africa. The third mandate was people management. I was in that space for 9 years, during which a number of things, we managed to do a number of things, supporting a number of activities in this country and in the region. Since February 2021, I did shift to my current role as the Area Vice President for Habitat for Humanity for Africa, based out of Nairobi. And in this particular role, one fundamental mandate that I also have is as the representative of Habitat for Humanity to the continent of Africa. And my daily brief is to continue partnering with governments in Africa, with intergovernmental organizations such as the African Union, multilateral organizations such as the UNEP and UN Habitat, bilateral donors, private sector, and others. In all of these situations, Honorable Chairman, I have managed to help develop and execute strategies. I've represented effectively, communicated our mission and our mandate to the people that our stakeholders, and in the process, elevated the visibility of the organization that I work for. For example, when I joined Habitat for Humanity, I found a staff of 8 running a project. There was no area office. I've created an area office. We've developed the staff to about a complement of 36, and we've connected all our countries in Africa to really effectively sing from the same page. With this, for Chairman, I am very convinced that I have the skills, the experience, and indeed the training to undertake this role. Honorable Chairman, as you know, the position to which I've been nominated by His Excellency the President is both bilateral and multilateral. And therefore, having looked at some of the things that we do need to take care of, I would be very keen early on to at least help focus on a few things that would be useful for helping our country's current program, which is on the bottom-up economic transformation agenda. I could say more, but I want to summarize just from 3 things. One is to focus on our trade and investment as part of our economic and commercial diplomacy, Honorable Chairman. I can tell you from the research that I've done and some information that I have managed to access, that as things stand, all the 6 countries that this particular mission represents, that is Ukraine, Croatia, Slovenia, Slovakia, Hungary, and of course Austria, we as a country are on a negative trade deficit with each one of them. For Austria alone, for example, in the year 2022, our exports to Austria were a meager 207,000 against imports from Austria of 6,124,000. We do need to up our game at reducing that negative imbalance. And I think that is something that we seek to work on, because it has implications for how we deal with our micro and small enterprises, how we deal with our health sector, and related. The second issue, Honorable Chairman, is our environmental diplomacy. Environmental degradation writ large, but especially because of the effects of climate change, we run a risk of tearing down even some of our development efforts that we have. And if we look at even our Vision 2030, that sees us as an emerging industrialized nation that is securing quality life for its citizens, we've got to really address this. Because, one, it has implications for even goal number 2 of the Sustainable Development Goals, which is about ending, it's about food security and promoting agriculture, which is key to our government's agenda at this point. It has implications for goal number 3, which is also about health and well-being. It has implications for goal number 7 on clean and affordable energy. And of course, goal number 13, which is about combating climate change. And of course, as being a multilateral station, goal 17 that calls for the partnerships at that level means that we are able to harness the different agencies at Vienna office. That could be the International Atomic Energy Agency that partners with us. That could be the UNIDO, which is also extremely critical, the United Nations Industrial Development Organization, critical for our industrialization here as part of our micro and small enterprises. Or the renewable energy for all that gives this country about $17 million every year that can help us to achieve these particular issues. So I would be very keen to focus on our environmental diplomacy, and of course linking that with the most recently successful hosting by Kenya of the Africa Climate Summit, and linking that with what has the Nairobi Declaration that connects it to our African Union, which brings in the 2063 agenda. And even as we go to the COP later this month, this is extremely critical. I would actually say, Honorable Chairman, tomorrow and the day after, Austria is actually hosting the International Energy and Clean Energy and Climate Forum, to which we've been invited. And so even bilaterally, there's an opportunity for us to do this, and of course, taking the leadership from His Excellency the President. Last but not least, Honorable Chairman, is our peace and security diplomacy. Because without the stability that we need as a country, whether it is from the conventional threats such as terrorism or non-conventional threats that come from technological advancements such as digital and cyber security, then we really have some risks. And so partnering with international organizations that are also based in Vienna, such as the United Nations Office on Drug and Crime, the UNODC, we are able to actually strengthen, as part of our strategic objectives, really strengthen our peace and security agenda for our country. I am keen to, I could say a little bit more, Honorable Chairman, but I may rest here for now, and I thank you for the opportunity.
Quite a detailed presentation. I'll allow honorable members to now engage you with comments and questions. I'll start with Honorable Yusuf, going this way, Honorable Kwenya, and Honorable Ikana. So if you can just note them and respond to them in the sets of 3, that'll be good. Keep your answers short.
Good afternoon, Mr. Makoloo. The candidate is known to me on your nomination for this important post by the President. You obviously have excellent credentials in terms of your area of specialization of law and so on. You've worked in the NGO world, and you've now required to move to a different world, government, state, foreign relations. This is a very different kind of animal from the one that you're used to. It is archaic, it has got archaic rules, it's a bureaucracy, and it's they say that it's difficult to teach new things to an old dog. So how would you bridge that gap in this complex world of diplomacy? Because you don't seem to have had any, apart from the short period that you worked as an appointee in the complaints section, you haven't had much engagement with government. And how would you be able to make that change and become a successful ambassador if you were to be selected?
Thank you, Chair. You know, there's a trend that I'm seeing. I don't know. It could be 2 days. Congratulations on your nomination. You come with your family, especially some very young children, and at times we ask very hard questions. So you'll forgive me if I ask hard questions in the presence of your family. And nevertheless, I must say that I'm impressed with your career progression. And I have the same question that has been asked by my colleague on the issue of your training. You know, exiting from legal field now to diplomacy, and from your training, I don't see any form of training in that field. But I must say that one thing has impressed me. It has a question that has been very consistent. I've been asking every other nominee on the issue of economic diplomacy, which you've articulated on the issue of trade imbalance. But I am getting deeper to that issue as to the extent of the structural changes you propose. I don't know whether you've taken time to see the bottlenecks that hinder trade, and especially as far as Kenya is concerned, because there are many bureaucratic communications. You know, you have to go through a whole system before a decision is made. You may be having very good ideas as to how you're going to cure this, but having the same communicated and implemented takes a whole bureaucratic system. So my question is, in your position as a occupier of the apex office in diplomacy, in terms of where you represent in Kenya, what do you think would be your input in terms of changing that bureaucratic system so that then, there was a suggestion that foreign missions be dealing directly with ministries and departments, so that for ease of communication. So what's your take on the same, and what would you propose going forward?
Okay. Thank you, Chairman. I think when asked, it's in relation to the training and how you will intend to bridge the gap between diplomacy and legal. My other question is your key areas of focus in terms of seeking collaboration between Kenya and Austria in case this committee approves your nomination. That is, any other area that you will be focusing on other than trade, because you've already exhaustively talked about trade. Other than that, I would also wish to know if you have any plans to support the government with the issue of youth unemployment, if you are appointed to that position in Austria. Thank you.
You may respond, Mr. Makoloo.
Beginning with Honorable Yusuf. And yes, I do confirm that I do know Honorable Yusuf. Been some time though, but pleased to meet you again. And the question about bridging the gap, which is of interest to the other honorable members as well. Let me say this, Honorable Chairman. First and foremost, as my learned friend, Honorable Memusi, will tell you, as a lawyer, part of the training is to cover both, local but also international. So the law as a tool of social engineering has within it the flexibility to enable you to work in different spaces. And actually, this is one of the assets that I do believe that I bring into this, that with that training, I am able to use that tool very, very flexibly. And as I have also said, within the organization that I have worked with in the international arena, these are international NGOs. Ford Foundation, for example, based out of the US, but with presence here since 1962, or Habitat for Humanity, based out of Atlanta, Georgia, with presence in 70 countries, founded in 1976. As their representative, my job has enabled me to interface with governments, and as a matter of fact, with ambassadors of other countries, because these have been our partners. And I guess when you sit next to some people, some things do rub off, and I'm sure some of these have rubbed off. But last but not least, is really about being a fast learner. I do thank God for the ability to be a quick learner, and I'm positive that there are lots of things, given the training that we should be able to get, I'm going to have to learn very, very fast. But I also believe, Honorable Chairman, that diplomacy is also about deploying the entire assets of the state. That includes our very technical people in our missions and kind of harnessing them as a team to deliver on this. So as a team player, as a team leader, that is also a key part of what I would bring. And indeed, that's what I bring as part of my leadership and management style. Honorable Kwenya, thank you for observing, about the young children. That's not part of your question, but I actually want to say that I do believe that the conversation we're having is about their future. It is just as well that they listen to that conversation, because this is about their future, not the future of my children per se, the future of young people in this country. And therefore, I would say you have no apologies to make about asking any tough question. I think it is good for them. I do hope that in my response to Honorable Yusuf has also satisfied you about my exit from legal field to diplomacy. Safe to say I actually do not see it as an exit. I see it as a continuation of a professional engagement. Now, the second question was about how to bridge the trade gap. I would say, and of course, tied to it is how to go around diplomatic and bureaucratic processes. One way to look at it is to increase the volumes of what we are basically exporting to these countries. But we also need, Honorable Chairman, to diversify whatever it is that we're sending. On the question of how to go around certain bureaucratic processes, I am convinced that as a lawyer, there is value in certain rules. And so being guided by the Foreign Services Act of 2021, being guided by our foreign policy, being guided by executive order that defines some of who is in charge of what is extremely important. What I would do, however, as the representative and head of mission, is to be a good stakeholder manager so that all the giftedness of our different partners, because the mission will have different representatives from different departments, as their leader, I would manage them so that we harness all their giftedness to the best of our country. Honorable Ikana, I also do hope that my first response did also satisfy you, but if it did, thank you. Now, beyond trade and investment, Vienna has support for us, and we would engage even on environmental, on health issues. On the 2nd of August this year, Honorable Chairman, we had an agreement, a bilateral financing agreement signed that is unlocking 40 million US dollars on health. And this is going to support mother-to-child health issues at Kenyatta National Hospital. We import a lot of pharmaceuticals and other technologies from Austria. I think we have an opportunity to collaborate on health. Number 2, environment. Austria is very keen on environmental management. And just as I said, tomorrow and the day after, we'll be hosting a very significant conversation that is actually focused on Africa. I really do think that as part of the collaboration, and as our country, through His Excellency the President, continues his leadership in the world on matters environment, we have an opportunity and a partner in Austria, even at the UN level, to be able to do that. The other issue is security, including cybersecurity. That has great opportunities. And that links up with what you talked about, our young people. Going back to the young that we mentioned, these really are the future of this country. And I think we've got to open for them legitimate and legal routes for them to realize their hopes and their futures. And one of the conversations we must have is about how these very highly skilled Kenyans can be made to offer their services overseas. And we should be able to work on a labor mobility agreement that enables our very skilled young people, or indeed our skilled personnel. From some research I got, like we may actually have the ability to export about 1 million skilled workers from this country to the rest of the world. This is also an opportunity that I would be keen to explore with Austria. Thank you.
Honorable Memusi, your learned colleague, will take the first one, and then... Okay, Honorable Memusi.
Thank you, Chair, and a delegation from Austria that was led by the Ambassador of Austria to Kenya. They paid a courtesy visit to this committee, and during our interaction, it came out that there are many opportunities in Austria, particularly in plumbing. But the only challenge we have is that our institutions are training our young people in one aspect of plumbing, and that is water only. Back in Austria, the plumbing is both gas and air conditioning. What strategies do you think you can put in place to influence our institutions of learning to train our young people, knowing the levels of unemployment in this country? How do you think you can influence these institutions to train for particular markets? What strategies do you think you can put in place? Thank you.
As you respond to that also, as a rejoinder, I mean, that is, Austria also is where our seasoned marathoner, Eliud Kipchoge, attempted and succeeded in doing the marathon under 2 hours. I know you are also an athletics enthusiast, and you ran marathons. How do you think we can use Kipchoge's name and many other marathoners to leverage on our tourism and projecting Kenya as a destination for great talent and opportunities?
Thank you so much, Honorable Chairman. Beginning
A nuclear agency and has plans to build a nuclear power station. With your background in environment, you think it is okay to build a nuclear plant in Kenya? Do we have the capabilities and the expertise to keep it safe? And if it is, you would also be, in Austria, you would also be representing us at the international agency, nuclear agency.
yes.
How would you go about in getting support for this particular ambitious project of having venturing into nuclear power?
Thank you. Honorable Daktari Kasala.
Honorable Yusuf, you raise a number of things. One is the deployment, safe deployment of nuclear energy. And actually need us to understand that even as we speak, as a country, we consume safe use of nuclear energy. Through our hospitals where we provide radiotherapy and other kinds of treatment, that is safe. So we actually do have that kind of stuff. What is the issue? We already have an act. We have an agency. What we need is, of course, the continued implementation of that act and, of course, the continued strengthening of the agency. Right now, annually, in partnership with the International Atomic Energy Agency based out of Vienna, we receive around 120 million US dollars. That includes support for capacity building so that we can actually be a stronger player in that field. In our partnership with the CBTO, the Treaty Against Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons, we actually have partnerships, about 2 stations here in this country that help to manage that. So we have experience. That's what I'm saying. As a country, we actually have experience. What we need is continued capacity building. Connected to that is the issue of security. And that is why I said earlier, if we are going to continue growing as envisaged by our Vision 2030, the issue of peace and security, including technologically induced insecurity issues such as digital and cybersecurity concerns, because this could be targets for some of this. But in partnership with the UNODC and other partners, if we do get the level of capability that we need, we are good to go. But obviously, this is also a matter for the UN system through its 6 committees, particularly the committee number 1 on that includes international security, to just make sure that as a country, we have the strength, euphenically speaking, to manage nuclear energy. I thank you.
Okay, quick one, yes, sir. Honorable, yes, sir.
Yeah. I'm a little bit surprised because I thought that nuclear power energy is a controversial issue. Even advanced countries like the United States, Britain, Japan, Russia have had serious accidents. So I'm just concerned for our environment and for our own safety, whether we would be able to handle such a controversial and dangerous, but nevertheless cheap and useful energy.
Yeah. Honorable Chairman, I hear you, Honorable Yusuf, and I actually want to say, when I was appointed to the Public Complaints Committee in 2004, one of the many complaints that we received and that we investigated were around mobile base stations and what they meant for health and safety of people. And of course, that was a time that there was a lot of proliferation of mobile phone usage and that kind of stuff. We did actually do a significant study around the levels of radiation and everything else. Certain actions were taken under the precautionary principle, for example, which is one of the principles under the United Nations Framework on Climate Change, but which is also embedded in our Environmental Management and Coordination Act. There came an idea of co-location of mobile base stations. So instead of, it was not, it's Airtel now, it was Kcell at the time, Safaricom, Telecom. Instead of each of them creating their forest of mobile base stations, co-location came as an idea so that it could reduce their costs, but you are also reducing the potential impact of that. The point I'm trying to make is it is possible to mitigate dangers that are associated with technology, and that includes nuclear technology. And I also do believe that, yes, countries such as Germany, I know, is facing off from use of nuclear technology. But it's a conversation that we must continue to have as a community of nations in terms of safe deployment. And what are the alternatives? Because if you go to SDG number 7 that is talking about affordable and clean energy, then you've got to have a conversation about what is affordable, what is clean. As it is now, we have sources that are in this country that are significantly clean, geothermal, wind, and all. And we've got to have a conversation as a country about which way we want to go. But in principle, I would say it is possible to mitigate, and we have enough infrastructure for mitigating danger from technology. Thank you, Chairman.
Vice Chair. Sorry, Honorable Kanya. Did I skip that?
Yes, Chair. Just something that we've been asking, and I think it's important for this committee to bring to the attention of this committee, the issue of statement of net worth. That is not just to say how much you own. The purpose of this statement is to see whether a person is bankrupt. That is number one. And actually even to declare wealth for the sake of this appointment. So once a nominee just states what they own, net worth is, it is in accounting terms, is total assets minus total liabilities. Then you'll be able to get to the net worth. So really, this is just a statement of
If you
assets.
look at, I don't know if I'm correct, but if you look at page 5 of his documents, he has documented up to, very detailed actually, 19 items, and he has done total assets and total liabilities and gave the total net worth.
He has done a good job. I think the candidate has done a very good job.
Thank you, Chair.
So ignore it, Vice Chair. He's an accountant and is very critical in that area.
Clearly.
Thank you. Maurice, Makoloo, I want to lighten up the house for a little bit. When he walked in, I asked the chair, we have a Southern Sudanese man coming here. I thought maybe he was coming to cheer up the committee. Yeah? The tallness and the size of the body. And Maybe you have relations with the people of South Sudan.
Possibly.
Yeah. And looking at your employment history, Habitat for Humanity International, Area Vice President, Africa. When I look at the remuneration you get from the current job, quite substantial. Even the one for Institute, the other one is also quite substantial. And it says Vice President, Africa. Now you are going to a place where you will only be in Austria, representing Kenya. Honestly, what motivates you to take up this job?
Thank you, Vice Chair. For the record, except for historical reasons, I have no other relations with South Sudan. But I think for migration, I think historically we can trace from there. But more seriously, to your question, when I worked for government for 6 years, and even as I have engaged with government, both at Ford Foundation, but even at the NGO level, because we partnered with different government agencies, I have encountered some of the most committed, patriotic Kenyans that this country will ever experience. It is a joy to work with such people. But most importantly, Honorable Vice Chairperson, it is such an honor and it is humbling to be asked to serve your country. It's probably one of the best honors one will ever get in his life. And I want to believe that the joy that one derives out of serving people can never be compared with a financial return from any investment. And that, for me, is what makes a difference. Thank you.
Honorable Chair, in the history of Kenya, I think you've only had one nominee that has rejected a posting to embassies, and that is Honorable Abdikadir Mohammed. He was also my MP, where I serve currently. And when we asked him, I said, I will not be able to serve the people of Kenya while in South Korea. I would rather stay. So I think sometimes it's good to make certain bold decisions and not just to be accepted. Anyway, but I accept your good explanation.
And on that, with your permission, Chair, I should also say this. It did actually take some reflection to actually, exactly for the same reasons, would I be able to serve with the diligence that I believe this office requires? And I did reach that level where I said, yes, it is not only an honor and a privilege, but that I would be able to actually give my all. And I did make that decision. I appreciate it.
He's a retired military officer himself. He retired at the level of a major, and it takes a calling to work in the Kenyan military way more than salary. I'll give you 3 minutes of your time to speak to the...
Honorable Chair, first I just want to thank you for the opportunity to have this conversation, to enable me let you into my personal and private and professional journey. And I hope that you have learned something in the process. I, for one, have learned lots. Through your questions, you have reminded me of what it matters, what it means to serve this country. And I would actually say, in some of those questions, you are giving suggestions, such as the questions that Honorable Yusuf asked about nuclear technology. It's kind of giving suggestions about what it means to move this country forward. I just want to thank you for that. I would say that if you do approve me to serve in this role that I've been nominated in, it is an undertaking that I am well-trained and experienced enough to take. I am skilled enough to execute, and I am passionate enough to walk the distance. And I look forward, if you do approve of my nomination, to a continued partnership with this committee, because it requires a partnership. We are Africans, and we believe in African wisdom that talks about if you want to go fast, you go alone. If you want to go far, you go with others. I believe that as a country, we want to go far. And therefore, we would need to do this together. And I look forward to a continued partnership with yourselves individually and with this committee and by extension, our National Assembly. Thank you and God bless you.
Thank you very much, my brother Maurice Odhiambo Makoloo. We also acknowledge the members of your family for joining you to give you the necessary. This committee will be retreating at the end of the week to consider your suitability as ambassador to Vienna, Austria. Until then, I wish you all the best and have a good afternoon.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Let's have Madam Amy Cherono Kipsoi.